what are the 2, 3, 5 main things that you value the most in your life? For me, those values are fun, freedom, and curiosity. We used to go out there and we randomly went to offices, and then we used to talk about, okay, like show us how you work. You're taking a bet or giving a chance to someone who might not tick all your boxes. Let's say you had 10 criteria and the person is only fitting 8 or 9, and you're sort of taking a bet, okay, hey, this person will work out. That person is more likely to stick along because that person understands that, hey, I've been given a shot.
There are metrics to focus on. There is skill that is important, right? But I will always pick the person who I can trust more versus the person who has more skill, right? My job is to develop things. I understand that, but I can't just take it for that, right? There is a motive to it, right? We are in a startup space where every resource and every hour is so important. Why am I being told that just do a new iteration and I am not seeing any specific changes in numbers? There is something wrong, right? Hey, welcome to the show, Swapnil. Very excited to have you. First things first, and I'm gonna directly jump into it. What was your journey? I see you've created this amazing company, Rocket, and I love how you've branded it as well. It's a very interesting turn on how a hiring company can look so modern, because our perspective of hiring agencies is usually this old danky Naukri.com, and then you begin this fresh perspective of okay, this can be modern and this can be sexy and this can be fun. So tell me, what is this about? How did you start?
So I think the journey is pretty long. I think people only see the thing that is working, but there has been a lot of pivots along the way. There are a lot of ideas tested along the way. So I always wanted that. I wanted to start up. Even right after college, I directly wanted to start up, but my parents were like, no, go a job to get real world experience first. I'm like, okay, let's do that. Somewhere along the line, I felt limited in my learning. Like I hit a learning plateau, and by nature, I am like a learning machine. So learning new things. Yeah. Like I think all founders inherently are learning machines, or they need to be learning machines in order to succeed. And you cannot just be that, hey, I just know this one thing and that is all I would keep deep diving on. That's not how you can make it solo. Like you'll always then have to part of a bigger company. You'll be like, as we say, it's like a cog in the wheel. Like nothing wrong with that, but it's like a very personal thing. So like in some sense, I would say like I also get some sort of like a high by learning new things. So after working in corporate for a couple of years, I hit the learning plateau. I tried changing companies, realized that is not a solution. Tried changing roles. Again, I realized that is not a solution. And then like, this was the only way that I thought, okay, this is what or how I want my life to be moving forward. So that is how I quit my job back in 2019. And then there have been a lot of things I tried. There was at some point I got my friend, and then we were together working on something along the lines of Clubhouse. Like this was before Clubhouse was a thing. So we were working on our audio social network around topics that you care about. It could be IPL matches, it could be Apple events, anything, any topics that you are crazy about, and it really doesn't matter that you're discussing it with someone, it's just that you want someone to discuss it about because it's something that you're really passionate about. So we tried out that. Then at some point we also ran pilot along the lines of like a premium house help service in an apartment in a society in Gurgaon. The idea was that household help. Yeah. So the idea was that whenever you hire someone, like they are going to take a couple of days off every month. And what if we partner with everyone? And then on the days that someone takes an off, we send some person else from the same society. So that is how we came along that.
I know, and I know we're friends also. We know each other for a long time. So, and I know that you've done a lot of startups, but like, what's the inflection points of these things? Like, are you like, okay, I just want to do something that solves a problem and I want to make some money? Or is it like, I just want to start up, so whatever problem I will find, I will just grab on or latch on to it and figure out a way to solve it and figure out a way to make money out of it? Is that the perspective that you bring in?
Sort of like deal with this question. I would answer this question by the way I envision my life around. So like, and this is something that, maybe you can also do, like ask your guests as well. What are the 2, 3, 5 main things that you value the most in your life? And you can think about it for a couple of seconds and don't think too much. But yeah, for me, those values are fun, freedom, and curiosity. Anything else, like, of course, there is something that, like, you cannot say that all other things have zero priority, but from current like aims or goals perspective, like those are the 3 things that I prioritize all things around. And that's also like how I became an avid reader as well. Like I'm very curious about a lot of things. So like I got into reading a few years back because I realized that there's only so much that I can learn from my own experiences, and the best way to double down on that is to start reading more. So curiosity went there, and then fun, freedom. Fun is something like anything I do has to be fun. Otherwise, there's no point doing it. And it's not sustainable as well if it's not fun.
How did you come up with these 3 things? Like how what kind of, like, I don't know about these things. Like I have never thought about, I do have some things that I want in life, but it's not like these are 3 things that I would want. So what made you want to have an idea of these things, and how did you decide, okay, this is it? Like I like having fun, I like to be curious, I like the freedom. What was the idea?
Yeah, so I think one thing to note is it's an ever evolving thing. So it's not like, I'll maybe start with an example. So like back in college, I had this one goal in mind, ki, hey, I will do this particular thing in my career. And fast forward 5 years later, I decide that, hey, now I don't want to do that. So that is something that led me to understand, internalize ki it's very hard to predict what you will like in future. What we can only optimize is what we like now. So these are just some things that I like right now. And these are sort of, it's like evolved over time. Maybe I tried optimize something else, and then I ended up having low energy in the day. I ended up not looking forward to the day. I think that is one of the great metrics that anyone can use, really. Like if you wake up at, let's say, whatever, 6 a.m., 8 a.m., or if 5 a.m., if you're one of those club members, whenever you wake up, like, are you looking forward to the day, or are you like, hey, why did I wake up? Or, it's sort of dreading the day. I think that is like a one quick measure to see that whether whatever you're doing is aligning with your personal energy levers, I would say. Like everyone is different, and it's something that you figure out over time. And yeah, I think these are the ones that I've realized that this works for me. Like there's no formula as such, but it's mostly evolution over time, I would say. The second thing among them, which was freedom, I think that was something that directly ties into starting up. Basically anything else that I tried working in different companies, tried working in different roles, and at some level it was I still felt like sort of confined. There were some restrictions, there were things I could do or could not do, so there were like someone else calling the shots. I'm not saying that's bad, but like that just did not align with me as a person. So yeah, I was like, hey, like also like from a personality type, like I'm an INFP, and like as that personality type, I like being more free, more freedom. So like I wake up one day and I decide that, hey, aaj kaam nahi karna hai. To have that kind of freedom, and just having that sort of like a freedom keeps me at like a mental peace sort of. So yeah, I think that is how I decide, okay, let's embark on this path and then figure out how it goes. Yeah,
makes sense. That is very interesting. I will try to find some things that I like, or I like this framework, finding things that
what is one thing, like I think maybe you can take time to find out 3, 5, 10 things, but like one thing, what is one thing that you want?
Yeah, I think health is really important for me, and I think I'm currently on a journey to be healthy as well, right? But I feel that once, if your health is in the right shape, then you don't have to worry about the rest of the things, right? You figure out your work, you will figure out your relationship. Health, being mentally and physically well, changes everything, and whatever I want to do or become, makes it so much easier. So that's the idea.
Yeah.
So I'll pick health now. So I'll move on to the next question now, and I'll find my rest of the list as well on what are things that I like. But so you started Rocket when, and like how's it going so far? Like how's Rocket coming along? And what is like inflection points where you realized, okay, this is not it or this is it? What were the learnings through the journey?
So we started off as like we talked to a lot of students, and especially in the tier 3 college segment, we realized that there is this gap wherein there are good people, but many good companies, or I would say most of the good companies or even startups, don't go to these college campuses for hiring. They don't have anything against these colleges per se, but it's just like a matter of ROI for them. So let's say if they go to any one of the top 50, top 100 colleges, they would, let's say, hire, I don't know, let's say they had 2 people, 3 people, 4 people. Going to like lower ranking college might not have these same numbers. Like it could also be the case that
it could also be something and we lost you then.
All right. So it could also be the case that they don't even end up hiring one person if they go to their campuses. So it's just a matter of ROI. They don't prefer going on these colleges, and the same sort of reflects in online interviewing and shortlisting as well. Whenever they apply to any company, typically what HRs do, and this is what we learned while sitting with HRs to figure out how their workflow looks like, is that they put a filter of tier 1 colleges or the colleges.
That's in HRs.
Yeah. How HSR layout?
Did you find
HSR layout? We just used to go out there. And we randomly went to offices, and then we used to talk about, okay, like show us how you work. And they used to show us, they would put their job postings on Naukri.com, and they would get a lot, like thousands of applications, and how they filtered things out. And from their perspective, it totally made sense. It's just a matter of ROI that, hey, you put these college filters. So therein we sort of identified a gap. Hey, if we can make something like a middleman between these two layers, wherein we can do the heavy lifting for them, we can vet these students and make the conversion ratio as appealing as any tier 1 college, then they wouldn't have any problem hiring from us. And that is how we sort of came up with Rocket.
Like for a company who's hiring for, let's say Uber, Facebook is hiring, they're just for the top 100, right? Or Amazon is hiring. How many people are they picking from a pool, and what is your pool like, right? How is your pool different from that?
Right. So I would say any big company, even when they're going to a tier 1 college, they are evaluating more than like 100 applicants. They will do some sort of like an online test. They should do multiple rounds of interviews, and from 100 people, maybe they will end up hiring 2 people.
Yeah,
that is the kind of conversions from a good. This is from a good college. Okay. It's a combination of multiple things, right? It could also be the case that there are more people qualified, but the company doesn't have those many openings, and this is typically like, unless you go to like a company which has like thousands of openings, like a company would not want ki solo utha liye college, right? So everyone would want ki, hey, let everyone go through this process. We'll pick the top 2, top 3, top 5, top 10 people. Aisa.
Other people from the rest of the students that did not get selected and possibly enabling them in some way? Or is this like you're even going beyond and removing the top 100 colleges and focusing on the rest of the colleges that are there?
Yeah, so we're focusing on the rest of the colleges, and the value offering on both sides. Like this way, the value offering becomes very clear. On the candidate side, it is that they can keep applying outside. Like it's not like if they apply to us, they get restricted anyway. But whenever they get apply outside, especially for people starting out, the sort of scenario changes when you have 3 or 5 year experience. I think at that time things become relatively easier, but especially when you want to get your first job in tech, you can keep applying, but the response rate is relatively lower compared to if you were from a good college. And that is where we come in, wherein we say, hey, you apply to us. And when we pitch for these candidates to companies, the underlying value is that we have done that heavy lifting of the vetting part. The companies that come to hire from us, they don't really care where the student was from originally. Trust our brand name that, hey, this student is coming from Rocket, so they must be good. And that's how like our positioning in the company's eyes, like that's how we want to like continue our pushing, as well as we want to be the college number 51 of India. So if you're coming from an IIT, NIT, BITS, like any of the good colleges, of course, like we are not saying that we can, make a quantitative impact there. But if you come from any of the lower ranked colleges and you're applying but you're not getting good opportunities out there, of course there are ways like, if you do good cold emailing, and if you reach out well, you do networking, build a personal branding. So there are ways, like it's not like they are the only way. There are ways out there, but typically like those are also hard to do. So we sort of there come in and say, hey, you come to us and we make that pitch for you to those companies. And the pitch to the hiring company is there's a pitch there as well, that hey, from a retention perspective, whenever as a founder, you might relate to this as well. Whenever you are taking a bet or giving a chance to someone who might not tick all your boxes, let's say you had 10 criteria and the person is only fitting 8 or 9, and you're sort of taking a bet, okay, hey, this person will work out. That person is more likely to stick for long because that person understands that, hey, I've been given a shot, compared to someone who is, maybe a bit overqualified, or maybe I'm getting what I'm talking about, right? Like there comes some sort of an entitlement, and people keep switching.
Yeah.
So
From my experience, I've realized that there are two major metrics to focus on. There is skill that is important, right? But I will always pick the person who I can trust more versus the person who has more skill, right?
Right.
Because in a company where you are dealing with so many variables, right? You want some level of consistency, right?
Correct.
That is where you have trustworthy people who you can rely on, right? And if you cannot rely on them, I don't think they will work out ever, right? It's not valuable. If they are, and good red flags to find is very easy. Are they consistently looking like they're not getting the things that they're assigned to do, and digress that onto timelines and things and availability? And it's just when you have these conversations with these employees and you have to work with them, you cannot recognize this initially. You'll recognize which one is the right one to pick. That is a very big thing that you have to solve for. So I agree with you on that, right?
Yeah, and even how it also helps in retention is that people who are coming from these top colleges, their mindset is that they want to grow quickly in their careers. I'm not saying that's a bad mindset, but at the same time, they're always running or like looking out for more things. They'll sort of see, okay, this company is offering this much more. Again, like not wrong in any way. It's like a free capitalistic market. That's totally fine. But so this is the one segment wherein people keep looking out, and when they see that, hey, okay, I've reached the max money that I can make here, then maybe some of them will start applying outside. So like there's always that kind of thing there. And compared to like our candidates are like more likely to stick because these are the ones who have the skill, but nobody is giving them a chance. These come from such like humble backgrounds. Like I can talk about those backgrounds, but I think we'll just hijack the show with those stories. But yeah, those come from such humble backgrounds that like we have seen, like they are more likely to stick. But they understand that, hey, this company, this person has taken a bet on me, and they're more likely to put their all in to prove themselves and like give value to the company. So like that's the pitch, that's the value prop on both sides we have figured out.
Makes sense. So you started out, I'm sure and it's always a bit of let's just start, man. Like, let's just start. Right? That is the attitude after a point, and it's not like you're always putting down a list whether, okay, am I checking all the boxes and then I will start. It's not always. It's usually a lot of courage, basically, and you're like, okay, let's just start. Let's float in the water and see if we survive or not. Right. So how does, like, now that you've started out, what were the learnings that you got? Okay, I did not understand about starting up before. You now understand, okay, this is too much. Like, what were those points for you?
So I think when I was working in a job, I had a very limited understanding of how everything is working as a whole and how there is exchange of value happening. And I would say like it was a bubble for me. Like in my head, I thought that मैं ही तो कर रहा हूँ सब काम, मतलब like it was more of key, like I'm doing a lot of the work that is going on in the company. And I think along the journey, I realized that maybe when I was working at a job, it was not even 2%, 5% of the entire thing that the company was doing, or everything that needs to be in place. And like along this journey, I've learned like so many things. There is like, of course, there's tech, but then there's product, then there's design, then there is strategy, which is like so hidden. Like you can see strategy anywhere, but like all actions you do strategy. Then on the numbers side, marketing, you have your financials, your accounting, legal. It's just like lot to take. I would say that.
Yeah, it's true. accounting was my personal hatred that I had with. I have to deal with this now every day. He'll call me randomly, what is this transaction about? Like it's written there what it is about, but they have to understand, right?
Yeah.
A lot of things that go that you do not realize until you start up. So it is a lot of courage, I feel. But then I think you also think of a lot of things that are like, you actually think of them as wrong because you thought that you were doing a lot and then you realized you were actually doing quite less.
Yeah.
But those are the things, right? I think those were just reasons. We look, ki bhai, I am doing everything. I will do my own thing and that will work out. But it's always ki you were always looking to start up. You were finding reason to fit that thing. And
very true. Very true. I think that is like confirmation, like a narrative. I don't know what's the technical term for this, but it's like you have events happening around every day in your life. And how we usually do things is at one particular point in time, we'll cherry pick things from the past and then we'll make a narrative around it. It's very convenient, right? And 2 years later, maybe if the question is different, maybe you're on a different path at that time. You'll again pick something else and make it way around. I think that's just like mental satisfaction wala thing. But I think it is just to say, hey, you have taken things in a very logical way. But yeah, a lot of that is very random as well. It is not that structured. How I'm very curious to know, like, what was your inflection point, or what was your courageous moment or step that led you to sort of start up?
Yeah, for me it was I think it was sort of similar, but basically what happened was I was actually working as a software engineer at a startup in Bangalore itself, and the problem was that I was building every day, but there were no users to use the product, right? So many iterations, you're spending time, and this happened to me at multiple startups, right? So I was like, what's going on wrong here? Like my job is to develop things, I understand that, but I can't just take it for that, right? There is a motive to it, right? We are in a startup space where every resource and every hour is so important. Why am I being told that just do a new iteration and I am not seeing any specific changes in numbers? There is something wrong, right? So I really took a deep dive into it, and then I had a lot of discussions internally, worked. So I started designing myself actually, right? In that, right? So I started learning designing, and I asked them, ki bhai, this is how you can possibly fix this product, right? And
interesting. How big was the team?
So the development team was 5 people for the front end app team, basically. 5 people, not that big. So it was entirely, the engineering team was 60 people, I think 60-70 people.
That's quite big.
Yeah, so there was everyone. Yeah.
So if there were 60 people in the team, like where was the money coming from?
Products as well. There were web products and things like
Makes sense. So
this was a new project, and they were very, very well funded, but this was projected as the most important product with no engagement, right? So then we were like, what is this going on? This does not make sense. So I worked on a design, I pitched the design, I actually worked on a few videos learning design as well, where I took a 30-day challenge kind of a thing.
Acha, that nearly doing
now. What's trending now? I am the instigator of it. I started this 3 years back. Okay. I took this 30-day challenge where I actually tried to get to design it because it was so intimidating. I was already doing a job, and I learned some like video creation kind of things as well in that process as well.
Nice.
I shared it with everyone. It's a video that I have now unlisted because I'm too embarrassed about it. But yeah, that was my inflection point. And then I actually got promoted as a PM, but then it was a remote situation, and I felt that bringing in impact is going to be a challenge, right? And I wanted to work for impact from there on. So I quit my job and started my design studio, and here we are.
Nice.
Yeah.
So what were your learnings along the way?
My learnings there were a lot of learnings actually. It's actually, I'm a very impatient person. If I am thinking of doing something, I'll execute it instantly, right? But my understanding of thinking long term has now come. Now I think long term. Now I only think long term. I don't think short term at all, right? But that was never there for anything. But if I want to get fit, I want to get fit in next 15 days. Otherwise, it's too much time. What is this? That doesn't make sense. 15 days more, 16 days? No, not possible. 9 months? No, please go away. Right? So it's like, that was the idea. I think those were one of the things that I realized, right? And I think iteration is something I'm very bullish on, right? Now what I've done is I still maintain that anxious person who wants to execute quickly, right? Because want to get it out. But then I am also very focused on I know this is not the best product, right? And I will iterate until I reach a space where I know that I have figured out the market. I am there, right? And I just trust in that process now. I am never like, okay, this will go right in the first iteration. Because there has been enough failures to understand how this is not how you can live a good, peaceful life. You have to understand this, right? So just doing stuff and then doing it constantly, right? Showing up every day. That's the plan.
Yeah, it's almost like I always feel like apart from any technical learnings, the journey is also very like it's almost like a self-help thing in practice, which is like since the consequences are very real, you get to understand yourself more deeply and you get to make conscious calls on, hey, these are my non-negotiables. This is something that I can improve on. And like, I think it forces you to be like a better version of yourself, because if you are not happy when like a founder, I think like you cannot survive. Like both you and the startup, like both cannot survive. So it becomes like a forcing
all period, but you cannot survive for long, right? Like this is not it, right? So in terms of like now that we're talking about happy and sad moments right now, like what were some financially or otherwise moments that it was like really low and you were at the lowest point of your business? Because it's important for people to understand that this is very cool thing to do. Yes, it is exciting, it is fun, you'll learn a lot, you'll grow a lot. Yes, but what are some pitfalls that you have to deal with that you do not understand before starting up, right? So what were those for you?
Yeah, so our low was when the hiring was hit hard. Like that was the market that we were in, and effectively like a lot, like majority of the companies that were hiring, they sort of came and said, hey, we want to put things on hold. Some said 3 months, some said 6 months, some said indefinitely, because nobody had any clue on how things are going to pan out. And since that was our revenue model, so yeah, I think that was the lowest point wherein we had to sort of like we had a lot of other plans, some experiments also going on to double down on that. But that was like something that like I would like say like we as a team were not prepared for, hey, this can also happen. Of course, in hindsight, you can say that, hey, these are cycles, and you know, if there was a bull rush, then there was bound to be this thing. Was that the bull rush was going on for a long time. And like I remember back in
COVID, I think it was bull only.
Yeah, even before COVID, like I also remember back in 2018, like I think I remember Swiggy was giving like outlandish salaries to people with 2 years of experience, and the thing had started that time itself. And yeah, so when it went down, yeah, I think that was a very sad moment. Like I think not sad, it was more of a you have to take a step back and then see how to go from here. Some experiments we had to pause for the time being, so that like effectively we could see that, hey, you know, there was a pace that we were going and there was suddenly a big roadblock. So yeah, I think that was a very...
What was your response to it? How did you tackle it?
So from an experimentation point of view, we sort of paused most, if not all, of the new experiments that we were doing. So that was there. And I think like any other company that we started or we shifted entire focus from growth to profitability. So and that was mean that, hey, by that time we were never in this case that, hey, you know, we would have to like be cautious with how we are growing or how we are spending money on things. And that was a moment wherein we had to be like everything had to be very calculated. Of course, again, like from hindsight, you can say that, hey, this should have been that way from day one. But I would say like these are some of the learnings that you have as a first time founder. And I have seen some of my friends who, again, like our first time founders going through similar journeys. At the same time, some other seasoned founders who have some learnings from their previous ventures and they have figured this stuff out. So I think, yeah, one of the most transferable skills I've seen, you as a person become more mentally stable and clear, as well as you have a lot of executional skills to take over to the next thing whenever you start next. Like I'm pretty sure like it is not that this is the last thing that we'll work on in our a 30 or 40-year career. And I'm pretty sure work on other things. And I think these are the skills that compound.
Makes sense. Makes sense. That's very interesting. Now that like you gain such experience and now you like, there is always learning, I'm sure, but you've been doing this for a while now. And I'm sure your perspective has changed in terms of the ideas and problems you will pick for today versus you had picked 2 years ago. What are problems that you would pick today that you would be extremely bullish about? Okay, this is it. And I can like, there's no rocket. You don't have a lot of money. Let's say you have as much as money before you started out, right? And then you are again starting up today, right? But you still have the knowledge, right? What would you would you approach it?
So one of the things that I'm bullish on is like, especially right now, after Geo made this data very cheap and accessible to everyone, is that everyone is in a flood of information. There is a lot of content out there everywhere, but there's not much action. I think just today morning or yesterday, I read somewhere that a couple of decades back, the average attention span was 20 minutes. And as of today, it is 7 seconds. That just the sheer difference in the magnitude. And I was like, okay, this is just sort of confirming the thesis that I have in mind, that accountability is something that I would want to explore if I was doing something from scratch. Content is there, everything. Like if someone wants to learn, right? There is YouTube, there's Udemy, there is a bunch of things out there that you can get your hands on, like from a content perspective. But the thing is that like, especially like TikTok and Instagram Reels, like they have like almost single-handedly destroyed our attention spans. And like I'm not saying like I'm not doing it. I'm also doing it like if I'm on a break or either when I'm sleepy, early morning, late night, like sometime in the day I end up going there. It's so I'm reducing it, and I want ki by the end of the year it goes to zero. Like, but from a intent perspective, like these companies are hell bent on ki, hey, we want to increase the time spent there. So the attention span is only going to reduce for anything that is actually helpful to grow. So like deep work, accountability, I think these are the areas that I'm bullish on. If you see even
what would you pick as an idea of today?
Right. So something like Cult Fit, right? Wherein you have those sessions wherein there's a combined sense of community, accountability, you have skin in the game, and you have a defined goal, defined time, everything. Like there's a structure to it. Plus you have skin in the game. I think that sort of accountability, like they have solved it for fitness, but I'm sort of exploring solving it in reading more. Like reading is something that I feel is one of the gateways to increase your deep work muscle. Once you figure out how to do deep work in any one domain, you can pretty much expand that to anything really. The current problem that I feel in the world right now is the attention spans are too long. Like if I were to just like take an example, I'm not sure how many people would listen to this entire episode end to end in one sitting. Like, and that is attention span I'm talking about, that people would listen to something, they would drop off quickly, or they would switch to something else. Then we have some notification coming in. There's like a lot of interruptions around us everywhere. It's the curse of the current social world we live in. We are ever connected. Like we have like 4 or 5 devices with us anytime. And so I think that is something that I would focus for a long term on. That from a core perspective, if you solve or if you increase someone's ability to do deep work, you can sort of like elevate them in their career basically, or however they want to grow.
What is
Does it almost
like? I like this idea. I love the problem statement that you're solving for learning, because now learning has become very fickle. It's very difficult to make the user sit down a book or sit on a video that's even like 5 minutes or 2 minutes longer, right? So how do you solve for such things, and what are levers that you can pull to create that kind of engagement or an environment that someone can do this?
So in some way, a lot of principles are derived from gamification. We have a community wherein we host like reading sessions. We have hosted like more than 100 events so far. This is something that I've been doing, exploring something on the side, and the structure that we have iterated and figured out that this works works is you get people on the call and you set a timer. The timer sort of acts in two ways. One is it gives something tangible that, hey, this is the target. It gives you a goal. At the same time, it's not like you have to do it forever. Like it gives you an upper limit as well, which is like more manageable. So like in corporate world, we talk about SMART goals, right? It's something which is specific, measurable, actionable, repetitive, and tangible, basically. So it's sort of like setting a SMART goal. And to drive accountability, we have a discussion just after that timer ends. And the idea is that if you are in the call, you get that sense of urgency. Like urgency, scarcity are some terms that have been related with a lot with like impulse shopping, buying commerce, like this is where it's used mostly in by gamification. But this is also something that we are sort of exploring using here, wherein you have that urgency that, hey, after the timer ends, you are in a call, you are in a group wherein you will have to talk about it for a few minutes. And another thing also what motivates people to do that is you also get to listen from other people and other people's perspectives. So that also hits like a dopamine thing. So compared to like a gym workout, like there's nothing really to learn from your peers, right? Well, it's pretty much just the motivation that you're getting. But here you're also like every person interprets certain line, a certain concept in their own way because they're seeing it through their lens of experiences, right? So they'll connect it to something, then they'll talk about it. So that also like acts as a great feedback loop. So this is something that we are sort of exploring, and just this recently we have started working on how we can automate this. So like Abhi, it is like fully ops, a lot of things, mostly things are manual, and like I said, like I've done like over 100 events. So you don't want to do like 1,000 events like this. Like it's simply not possible, it's simply not scalable. So we've sort of started putting down and building an MVP of like how we can automate this in a way that it can scale to everyone. And it's a process of iteration. I feel like from a problem perspective, we know that it is a problem, and we have free time. And it could be like related to anything, right? It need not be something that
setting up time for me, right? I'll get a time feed and I'll have collaborative people sitting with me on that time feed where I talk to them and speak to them, right? And also engage in the activity that is assigned based on the framework, the SMART framework, for example, as an example.
correct.
So if I do that, I will be able to like learn basically, right? Which is what I'm struggling with.
Yeah, it's also
But then it's very like you're saying that this is someone already understands this as a problem. This is for only people who say that, okay, I have lost my attention span. My attention span is horrible, right? And then they are proactively saying, okay, this is a platform that helps me be in a focus group, right? So is that the idea? Or like, what about a kid who is like, let's say I was not a very good reader. I had terrible attention time from my childhood only, right? So I was not much into reading or sticking to these boring things, right? I'm just kidding. But that is the idea, right? So how do you enable those people, or those are not your focus? You just want to work with people who are already trying to solve it for themselves.
right. So like every product has like an adoption curve, right? So at the start, you'll always have your early adopters. These are people who know that it's a problem for them and they're looking for ways to solve it. And later on, you will start targeting people for whom you'd have to educate them as well that, hey, this is a problem for you. I think we are not at that phase wherein like there's a book, right? There's crossing the chasm. Like if you are at certain tipping point wherein you know that, hey, this is working and now we can scale. I think like you have PMF, you have like all the money. I think then we'll, maybe even raise and then we'll go all in on that. But yeah, I think in the initial phases, it is not there for sure. So for now, it is just people who want to solve this. So we get feedback and iterate rather than another second.
Makes sense. Super interesting. This is very, very, this is a great idea actually. I love the problem, but this solving is 0 to 1 for over here because it's super challenging. But I am looking forward to how this turns out and what it looks like as a product as well, because you want to scale this into something.
Right.
So my last question, and then we'll wrap this up, Swapnil. What are ideas and specific ideas you're bullish about for the future? And this is for people who are starting up right now, who might not be looking or thinking of starting up, right? I haven't sent the email yet, but still. So what are ideas they could be thinking about.
Okay, I thought like this accountability would be the thing that I would suggest everyone to work on, because like the problem.
You would say that there are multiple things to be solved here, and if so, what are those things then? Like, let's say you're creating a focus group and it is solving this problem in some way. What are other ways to solve the same problem if someone could pick it up, right? Like, let's say someone is in college, or let's say someone is a 40-year-old who's in a family, right, and who also wants to solve it. It might be a different niche for them. What is their way to solve such problems or pick problems, whatever that is?
Yeah. So the way is to figure out a community around that. If there is something special that happens when you see people in the same boat, same demographics, same like similar traits, and going through similar challenges, like it would be a bit rare to see that a kid is motivated by someone who's not from that age group, and like same for us and someone older. But like an example would just be founders, right? Let's say if you have built a community of founders and maybe you end up building it via this podcast, then like any group you pick, like if you pick this group, then the group is very important to solve this with, and the overall hooks, overall methods can evolve, but the main challenge is to congregate people who are in a similar group. Most likely everyone is facing this challenge. I would say you throw a stone randomly at a person outside your house, it will hit someone who is facing the challenge, but you also need to get that person in a group of similar people, because otherwise it does not work. You need to have that kind of like a shared journey, shared struggle sort of a thing, like which is like colleges work, right? When you say that, hey, we have good great bonds with our college friends, is because like everyone entered at the same time, everyone was facing the same challenges of the world, that hey, now we are out of our homes, we are facing the world, we are figuring this out, we have newfound freedom, so like going through the same journey. So I think the harder part is to figure out groups of people who have similar motivation, so that you sort of respect everyone else in the group, and you turn your mindset turns to one of a learning one, instead of hey, it's a random thing. So I think that is the most challenging part, and then you can do it for any niche. In some sense, this also leads to a problem of matchmaking, and I would say like this could again be another answer to your question altogether, that matchmaking is something that is like an unsolved problem, be it in hiring, like what we are doing, be it in dating. Like I think that is also again true. You have a lot of apps out there, but I think there's still a lot of gaps in matchmaking there, and even finding new friends. Like if your college has ended, it is very hard to find new friends after college, and again there is some sort of a matchmaking needed there, because you would not want to become like friends with someone random. Like at least they should share some of the core values that you have. Or it could be as simple as they watch one common TV show, they have some common music interest, something needs to be in common. Like you cannot just be like friends with someone random. So yeah, I think matchmaking in general has a lot of scope, and it's like an optimization problem, as they call in discrete mathematics. It's like you have a lot of variables and you have to optimize for everything. So in general, it will like unless we get to the point of equal to NP, it's going to be an unsolved problem.
Yeah, but I think this is very interesting, because like I think learning is gonna become difficult in moving forward. And if I have to tell people who are listening to this on how to pick this up, you have to really understand where you are in your situation and figure out what is the best possible product, or what is the best possible group you can create, who you can solve this for, right?
Yeah.
And work towards that. Don't try to be in something that you are not personally a part of. It will become difficult for you to start on that journey, right? As Swapnil is doing it for his community, it will be very helpful for you to do it for your own, right? And I think there is enough for everyone.
Yeah.
In India, though, of course, 1.4 billion people, there's enough to work with everyone.
I feel ideas are also like ideas are not just the only key. So like even if 100 people are working on the same thing, we could have very different solutions, and then we can also start building on each other's
together.
So
why not?
Yeah, I think
I agree. Perfect. This is very, very insightful, Swapnil. Thank you for joining in and spending time and being so insightful and helpful in understanding your journey. I'm very looking forward to how your products and how Rocket does in the future. And yeah, thank you so much.
Awesome. Thank you for having me. I had fun. And to our listeners, feel free to reach out if you end up exploring any of the ideas we discussed, if you end up exploring it, feel free to reach me out. I am on most of the social platforms by the name Swap Agarwal. So yeah, you can find me there.
Yeah, we will find
All right.
links in the description. Please go ahead and spam him, spam Swapnil. Let him know what's going on, who's here. All right, thank you, Swapnil. See you. Bye bye.